for Carissa?
Because I forgot to lock up the cat, and here he comes.
Oh, well, he got to make his debut. Join us all.
Yeah,
So, good evening,
yeah, echoing
relationship
a little bit.
flow. So, you got to turn the volume down on your computer. I'll turn mine down too a little bit. Hope that's better. Good evening, relationship flow for our relationship flow sip and chat. How we doing, ladies?
I'm good. It was a
Doing
good
good.
day and moving towards a good evening.
I know that's right.
Same.
You said the same for you, LaJoya?
hmm
Okay.
I had to
Trying to get
politely tell somebody off,
how does that work?
but in a good way.
Because I know how you are. How does that work?
You use all of the words you learn in college. Straight, straight, straight terminology.
Did you look at them over your glasses too?
No, it was over the phone, but I did
Okay.
tilt my head while I was talking.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So the discussion
Just
flow
straight
for
over
this
the phone.
evening is continuing our conversation on intimacy, anxiety, and communication. And so far we have one of our guests with us and expecting two, which are both the male point of view. Um, so hopefully they're able to join us and get in to this conversation of ours. So LaJoy, I don't know if you got a chance to check out last week's video to kind of see what all we dived into, because we got into a couple things. We did have a male voice that joined on with us.
hmm
I'm sorry, I'm scrolling the page. I'm seeing something I ain't seen before. um, what was I gonna, oh, so we talked about defining intimacy and how your experience and gender creates like different definitions for what that looks like. Um, we talked about like family being important and informing how it is that you see and define relationships, but that doesn't necessarily have to be your roadmap for how it is that you look at it. Um, but then sometimes it's what you usually follow because that's what you know. And I'm trying to think what else, Carissa. What else do we have?
Well, we talked about intimacy and the various ways it plays out in relationships, and I think we touched on a little bit of how to create intimacy in your relationship, if I'm not
Okay,
mistaken. I
right.
don't think we really dove into that topic, but I think we touched on it a little
Okay. Okay.
in talking about intimacy and what it looks like.
Okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
So when you hear that, what's your first thought as far as how you and your experience with relationships, how do you define intimacy?
Mm. Okay, so you know how the old saying is, a way to a man's heart is through his stomach.
Mm-hmm.
That's me. But the first thing I thought about is like love language, basically.
Okay.
Um, some people, some people are like they understand that peace or appreciation or intimacy through gifts. Other people, if you're doing stuff for them that they really need, somebody I learned this about 10 years ago. Whether you're married, in a relationship, partnership, domestic shit, whatever you want to call it, I learned that no matter what you're doing for your your significant other, if it's not what they need, even if it's something they need, but what they're saying their need is like you did nothing at all.
Mm.
So I've
So what does
always
that look
tried to
like?
not.
Hmm.
So let's say your significant other is going back to school, starting a second career, and
Mm.
they're like, the bills are paid, they got some type of money coming in, but it's not like a full check, like not what you're used to.
Mm-hmm.
But bills are still getting paid. You're like, oh, let me buy, let's say, let me buy or give them money to pay off their debt. But at the moment, that's not what they want to do. All they're saying is, could you set me an account so I can buy my books, for example? Because
Mm-hmm.
to them, that's what they need. That's their most pressing need. Even if something needs to be addressed, they're not looking for a solution. They're not looking for you to fix that. But if
Mhm.
you're going to be supportive and to contribute, they're asking
Mhm.
to contribute to that. If you don't ask somebody what they need help with and you not help them with what they said they need help with.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
you're either
that.
gonna do it or you're not. You're either gonna do it or you're not. So if you're being
Mhm.
supportive, like, oh, let me pay off your debt instead of getting these books for you for school, that's not what they said they needed. So
Mhm.
you're not listening to understand. You're listening to fix a problem. It's
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
okay. It's okay to be a nurturer. It's okay to be a supportive or be a helpful mate or what they say a helpmate. But then when you start being
Mhm.
you start being a pushover or enabler. Like
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
even if they got messed up credit and they going back to school, mind your business. Their need is what they said was they needed help. They needed the support for books. So if you're not supporting on the book, you should have kept your money in your pocket. That's just an example I look
Did
at.
Uh,
did you
So
say
some
mind
This
your
people,
business
remind
though?
you said mind your business. Hey,
I said
it
mind your
reminds
business because
me
I
it
Right.
reminds me of a conversation that comes up all the time with couples, um, with men and women couples, where the man wants to fix the situation and the woman just really wants him to sit and listen and comfort her. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want
yeah,
solutions. I don't want you to tell me how to do it. I just want you to hear me vent and tell me things are going to be okay. I see
Mm.
that all the time in couples counseling.
Same here.
Mhm.
well
And it
my whole thing,
and
yeah, oh go ahead.
no, I think that goes to what you were saying with love languages is that we don't take the time to really invest in building that intimacy up to know what is our couple's love language because it can be different from one relationship to the next. It's no cookie cutter. But when you resolve it, like you mentioned, one person going to school to change their career, and we don't know how many times that they've changed their career
Mhm.
in this relationship and what that meant to the other partner when they weren't involved. So if it's changing your career, starting a new business, like anything that you're doing that's going to compromise the time and attention to the relationship or time and attention to what it is that you did for making the house work, um, that should be a conversation with your partner.
It should be. And I will say, okay, when you talk about intimacy, some people are more intimate with Netflix and video games than they are with their partner. It's called it's a form of you know how people emotional cheat, but it's
Mhm.
object it's like an object cheating. Not cheating
Mhm.
physically, but your time and attention, what it should be nurturing. You're nurturing that new PS4 game. Or you
Mhm.
nurturing
Mhm.
Greenleaf in a scarf and a grandmama pajamas. I'm just saying.
Now you said in a scarf. We gotta protect our investment for our hair. So what? We can't put the bonnet on until it's time to actually go to sleep,
You
and
can
that
put a
we know
bonnet
that
on, but put something decorative.
a decorative bonnet. They
Well,
still
not a
gonna see a
bonnet.
bonnet, especially if they're a hair
But you
person.
could
They're gonna
do
see
a
the bonnet.
African wrap, something.
Oh, you're right.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm not saying that you're not
I'm,
right.
you know,
Mhm.
I'm not saying you're not right.
I don't have to be
Mhm.
right. I'm just saying I see a lot of couples. That's part of the intimacy. That's not all intimacy. Like for
Right.
me, like of course I'm guilty. Like for me, I don't even like chicken like that, but I like the smell of Popeye's chicken. So
Mhm.
me, you'll get better results for me if you bring me some Popeye's chicken and Dr. Pepper. I don't even like chicken like that, but like the smell of it. I'm a Southern gal, so it's more like a ooh nostalgic. But even if
Mm-hmm.
I don't eat it, like or if you bring me my favorite candy bar, I'm just
Mhm. Mhm.
No, but
Yeah.
those are small things that mean a whole lot because
Mhm.
it
yeah,
changes the conversation of having empty arguments And what I mean by that is you arguing about the dishes in the sink or the trash not being taken and put away when you really really want to talk about something else, but that's safer to displace how you feel to make something spicy. And then some people arguing is foreplay, or like that's a level of intimacy depending on what they're arguing about. Not about money, but if they arguing about, I don't know, sexy shoes or I don't know. I see your eyebrows.
Only
I
because I was
like
just
profile.
talking with someone today about their relationship, and they said the relationship was toxic. That wasn't they those weren't my words. They said
Mm-hmm.
that the relationship was toxic, and they talked about the many arguments without the intimacy.
Mm.
Like they don't feel any kind of closeness, but there's always some kind of conflict. So I
Mm-hmm.
thought that was an interesting dynamic. So
That's
this
dry.
person is trying to figure out how best to communicate their needs to their partner, and to let them know that they don't want to do the battling.
Right.
You know, they want the intimacy, they want to share, they want this person to know how they feel about things without it always being, the sky is blue, but no, I said the sky is green.
Even though
And
that could
that's
Are
be
they married?
gaslighting too. She said, "Are they
mhm.
married?
No, they're
You
not
about to
even
be a
married.
therapist with us, Joya?"
They're not even married.
Sometimes sometimes you just know when to move on,
Hmm. Hmm.
But
Yeah.
but
sometimes
you don't
people
want
don't
to.
follow that because they so comfortable, or there's some social constructs that tell them that they're not going to meet anybody else at their age or because of different life events that
Yeah,
they've had, and
Or
that controls.
the simple idea that they can change someone else.
but why
Simple
give up your
idea.
good years for a dry relationship?
Mm,
If you're gonna
yeah.
be dry by your damn self. I mean, if you're single, that don't mean you're dry. That's not what I'm saying. That's what I'm
Right.
like. I'm not insinuating that. But
Okay.
sometimes you can have a better
At
relationship
their
with self
age or
than a
because of
relationship with
different life
somebody else.
events that they've had, and
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
controls.
Yeah. So yeah, there are
Idea that they can
lots
change
of
someone
reasons
else.
why people
But why
stay
give up your good
in dry
years to a dry
relationships.
relationship?
Mm.
I'm sorry.
Mhm. No, I was saying that there are, lots of reasons why people stay in those relationships. The fear that they're not going to, like you said, like they're not going to find someone else,
Mm-hmm.
or fear of just moving on to something different, fear of just being out there again, fear.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing I hear all the time is, well, I put in all this time.
No, because they're fearful of putting in the work with themselves. People
Right.
be
Mhm.
afraid to be by themselves. I don't get it, but
Mhm.
I'm married.
Yes.
But the next best thing is myself all day, every day.
Right.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, I think that being by yourself is a probably a social construct narrative, and I don't mean to use a big word that wasn't intended for that to be like that, but like society tells people that by X age you're supposed to be this, or by you're supposed to have a house, kids, whatever. And I remember at my 30th birthday, my girlfriend calling me, wishing me a happy birthday, but then asked me was I ready to have my cry. And I was like, well, what am I crying for? Because I'm excited. I didn't got my master's degree. I didn't got, like it was so many things that was accomplishments. But um, in her definition, I was supposed to be married with a couple kids. And I was like, no, that was your plan. That wasn't my plan. Like we didn't know each
Mhm.
other like since we was early 20s. But hey, hey
That sounds like
Veronica, thanks for joining
a
us.
stretch vagina.
That sounds like a what?
A stretch vagina.
You know what?
Bare, pregnant and bare feet, foot all day long. Ain't got nothing else going on.
Right, right.
I don't know the way that sounds. Like who does that? Oh, well, I know a lot of people that think like that, but I'm just saying.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
Mhm.
And then it would be like
Mhm.
19 years ago of our 30-year friendship, and that journey that she had for herself is still not an accomplishment. So then it's like, those things begin to impact how it is that you engage with intimacy, not only for yourself but with other people. Like, are you welcoming, are you nurturing, are you open to the experience of new situations, or are you protecting yourself and saying, okay, well, it must not be meant for me, like maybe I wasn't designed for that. And that's not true, because we're magnetizing human people, like we're supposed to engage allegedly with people.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
What you thinking, Dot?
I'm just kind of chewing on what you were saying. But
Mm-hmm.
it really, from what I'm seeing with, some young women, that whole idea about when you should have kids and when you should have been married is significant in some of the conversations I'm having with young women in their mid to late 20s right now for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And it's become a distressing thing for some of these women
Mm-hmm.
that I've been, seeing for therapy. It's become, because it's an expectation that
Mm-hmm.
they have not met, even though it's not their expectation all the time, but they haven't met it, and it's causing some stress.
Mm-hmm.
It's causing some stress, and it's just that whole idea of people feeling like they should fit into a certain box,
Mm-hmm.
and
But
we
then
all know what shoulds do.
right. And then we have people who we know, LaJoya, I saw your eyebrows raised. We have people who have gotten married at those earlier years that they're like, okay, why didn't anybody tell me that I needed to wait for a maturity gap or maturity situations before I delve into connecting with a partner?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think the
Or
conversation,
before, or until I learned about myself.
right, right,
Yeah.
because
So when
intimacy starts with
you
you.
mentioned, yes, that's what I was thinking in terms of like, I don't know. I felt like even to get myself ready for dating, even at a younger age, young adult, early 20s, I used to take myself out on dates. Because even
Mm-hmm.
though I got
Mm-hmm.
married at like 24, 25, somewhere, when I need to know what I liked, what I didn't like, what kind of movies
Mm-hmm.
I was into. So I used to
Yeah.
go out to eat, take myself to get dressed, dolled up and everything. People like, who you
Mm-hmm.
going out with? I'm taking myself out.
Mm-hmm.
Hair, nails, it's kind of like, and just even after I got married, had kids, I still take myself out.
Mm-hmm.
So I
It's
think that's
Exactly.
important.
necessary because you change and grow. So
Yes. Very, I think that is very important. And
yeah,
I
you grow.
recommend that all the time. Yes. Do something by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the
Like date
movies.
yourself.
Go to
Like
a
love
restaurant.
on
Right.
yourself. Yes.
Yes. Yes. But you would be
Even my
surprised at how
girlfriends
many
were like, "You
people have
didn't invite
never
me."
done that.
Some people are like,
Really?
well, what you gonna do when you're there by yourself? And I'm like, you're gonna eat.
Mm-hmm.
You have the
Yeah, the
waiters
same thing you
that are
do when people were
there.
there.
It's other people in
Right.
the restaurant. I mean, and then the way we're so connected to social media, like you got social media that you could be listening to. Um, like it's so much that you could do, or it could be the time that you turn all social media off to just really be present in the moment. I know
Mm-hmm.
when I'm meeting with people, that's what I'm telling them, and they're so
Yeah.
concerned about what people are thinking or what they're gonna say. Why? They're not paying for your dinner.
Mm-hmm. And most
Exactly.
of the
And I
time,
know
they're
some
not even
people
thinking about you.
Would you say, Dot?
they're not. I know some people have a prayer room,
Mm-hmm. What's that face
so
expression for
where
a
they're
prayer room?
intimate with them like themselves. Me or not?
Okay.
Huh? Or some people have a room that they meditate in just
Okay.
to
Mm-hmm.
get themselves
And like recenter, refocus, and able to like see themselves and be
Mm-hmm.
intimate with their mind, body, and spirit before they even begin introducing somebody else to the mix.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
Mm,
I
Mm-hmm.
think that.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. People
Um.
are really afraid often of what other people are thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I think that keeps people from being adventurous or willing to explore, doing things, especially alone.
And it's
I
like
love
you.
eating by myself. That means I don't have to entertain somebody.
Right. I love traveling by myself, actually, because then I don't have to, like you said, entertain, or I don't have to go
Mhm.
through the different tours or things that's happening at the location that we at to consider what you may be interested in to come up with a compromise. I mean, of course, this is all pre-COVID, but I enjoy just that getting away, that driving in a car. If even if it's just driving to the airport, I enjoy walking down the turnstile and them saying, "Welcome to such and such airline, and this is your trip." Like those things are wonderful. There are some safety things to be mindful of, but that's an intimate moment, like in planning for yourself.
Mhm. Mhm. So what do you ladies think is the most fearful part of trying to be by yourself and being alone?
So I want to
Mm.
say, I think not for me, but in people who I've worked with, the perception of what other people are thinking,
Hmm.
which is an interruption in how it is that you're building yourself up by the purpose of having that alone time.
Mhm.
Okay, for some people, like it's not personal, but for some people, I witnessed it's the conditional love from their families, not the unconditional. Because kind of like what Mary said is some people, some families have, we'll give you this, we'll do this for you, but you have to like be with somebody or be
Mm-hmm.
married or have had kids, and if not, you don't get this as the same sibling or the cousin, or
Mm.
so it's not like is they're afraid to lose conditional love
Mm.
Mm.
or conditional
Okay.
acceptance when it's not really built on
Mhm.
anything.
Mhm.
So it's built on I don't want to say air. It's just very misconception. It's not no
So do you
foundation,
think
no
so do you think that makes people go into or stay in relationships that aren't really fulfilling?
yeah, because they be like, "Oh, my mama really loved John, and she told me the day
Mm.
I married him that if that's the husband for me. If I stay with, is this your mama life? Is this her wedding? You know,
Right.
you marrying the
Mhm.
wrong person. I don't care if the day of the
Mhm.
wedding, you would have what's that song Beyonce got a I don't know. She has hundreds of songs,
She
but
does.
it's one of the songs she has a thing where she says like she dodged the bullet.
Mm.
So even with being married, I had people talking about if you leave your husband, I'll take in you and your kids, and we can be married. But I was like, I was young, but thinking now, I just be like, ooh, I dodged the bullet because I was engaged before I got married. And I was just like, ooh,
Mm.
I dodged the bullet because it was just like, who wants to put up with that? Looking out 15, 20 years later, you'd be like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mhm.
think because even with that, it was my engagement before I got married. It was like I was young,
Okay.
I was like 19, 20, and it was a condition kind of put on that. We grew up together, all this greatness, but it was one thing, and if you can't respect me with that one
Sorry.
thing, I knew at a young age, like, oh, this is not. It later on, 5 years, it could be something way bigger than this. I just need to let it
Mm-hmm.
go.
Mhm.
Okay.
Then I left because I lived 10 hours away in West Texas at the time, and I answered
Mm.
he called me, answered the phone. Hey, boo. I said it's over. It took him. It took him. It took him 10 years to figure out what he did, and 10 years later, he
Mm.
called me and apologized. But I was already
Wow.
married with 2 kids by then. That's nothing for us.
But I guess he needed
So,
that closure, and that's the thing that a lot of people seek to find is closure in certain relationships where they thought was the one that fulfilled them in a sense of giving them that what's that called? Like the level of intimacy, the level of comfort, the level of stability that they were seeking, but it ended up not working out. So it's like, okay, how can I do something different?
but I knew I was his one, but I he
Mm-hmm.
was my one, but not. But I was his one because I'm friends with his whole family on Facebook. They reach out to me, happy birthday, because everybody knew, but it just wasn't meant to be at that point. He's married
Right.
now, good, but I'm respectful because I'm like, does she know who I am? She knows of me, but at that point, I just
But I mean, are you still that
it's
person
nothing.
who you were 20 years ago? Because if he consoled with you to bring closure, you're definitely married with a whole family that you are happy with. Does she need to know? Because you're not that same person. You are that physical
Yeah, no,
individual, but you're not that same
yeah,
person.
correct. So what I do, I'm like, does your so if somebody's talking to me and they're married,
Hmm.
like we have all kinds of friends. If I'm talking to somebody, my husband he knows who they are.
Hmm.
So if you calling me and saying hello, okay. But if we having a conversation over a couple of minutes, does she know you on the phone with me? Then if she
Hmm.
doesn't, you need to get off. This is not that type of. So I think sometimes people that's not his situation, but I think sometimes people get married because they're older now, like 30s, going into 40s, and then they just get married because it's like you said, a construct. It's something to do,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and then it's like just like I'm married, we bought a house, we got a kid or two, we travel, but yeah, there's really no. So sometimes intimacy is still missing,
Right.
and I'm not even saying physically, but just the more so like the
Yeah.
heart, the mind,
Yes.
spiritual.
Hmm.
That's what I
Yes.
mean. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes
It's
me think
true.
about the construct you talked about earlier.
You said
Mm-hmm.
the construct or the country?
The construct.
Oh, okay. Because I know we talked about
Construct.
her being country too.
Sorry, I have an with the
But
construct.
that, I mean, what she's saying is really, it's it's interesting how people get stuck,
Hmm.
based on expectations of other people.
Right.
And is your relationship really healthy is if there's no intimacy? If you're always wishing you were somewhere else, is
Hmm.
that healthy?
No,
That's deception.
because you live in it's a self-sabotage situation that you live in for somebody else as opposed to living for what makes you happy. That every time you make a decision or you second guess yourself, you second guessing because you want to stay in good standing with the person that told you that this was the best person. And
Mm-hmm.
you just have to have a
Mm-hmm.
real talk conversation like, okay, I love you, I care about you, but to stay in good standing, this is what I'm tolerating. And is that good for me? Is it not good for me? And more than not, likely, if you're questioning it, it's not good for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very true. Very true. So how do you navigate those conversations? Because if you just had to talk to the person that you feel like you have no intimacy with, and you don't really want to be with them, that's one conversation. But then
Hmm.
you have to have the conversations with all the people who thought that was the best thing for you.
But do you really have to have that conversation, or can you just live your life and date yourself and build your empire? And when they
Mhm.
catch up, sometimes everybody ain't supposed to catch up because
I think so too. I think so too. But many people,
You're right. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me
no,
pull myself back.
many people don't have that kind of strength.
Hmm.
I would say I don't have to tell them about anything. It's none of their
Right.
business. Like
Because
LaJoya says,
are
none
they
of their
footing the
business.
bill?
Yes, it's none of their business. But many people don't feel that way. They
Mm-hmm.
feel like there's an obligation, especially to family.
Mm-hmm. Or do they think that they can't financially, from a financial perspective, they don't feel confident that they can manage a household for them and whoever else is involved, like if there's children involved or something like that? Do they not think that they can successfully manage the household in the absence of a second income?
Income. That's possible too. That's
Mm-hmm.
possible too. Yeah, I mean, I'm actually talking with someone now
Mm-hmm.
who no longer wants to be in their marriage,
Mm-hmm.
but the family expects them to stay. Financially, they can't really do it on their own. There's
Mm-hmm.
children involved, and this person has just resigned themselves to be miserable
Mm.
until the kids are grown. And it's
Mm.
not like the kids are teenagers. These kids are young, under the
Right.
age of 10.
So they're gonna be roommates until then.
Until then.
So that means that
Until
they're
then.
inviting
So
their
you just
children to be exposed to so many other things. And they're sending a message as far as what's acceptable, what's appropriate in the meanwhile, which now
Yes.
your children will replicate that same
Of
boundary
course.
in
Of
their adult
course.
situations.
Yes.
Right.
And that's my
that's horrible.
constant mantra. Kids do what they see,
Yeah, not what you tell them.
not what
Hmm.
you tell them. They do what they see.
So true.
They feel it's an
So I had a
investment and they're not
question.
giving it all up. They're not giving their investment all up. Like if they got a beautiful house or
Mm-hmm.
um I don't know if they didn't have I hear your question. We coming to that. If you got stuff that you guys did together, that they don't want to lose,
Mm-hmm.
but you losing by the fact
Mhm.
that you're sacrificing your whole self, not a
Yes.
part of yourself, your whole
Your
self.
whole
Even if you dip out,
self.
it's your whole self.
Exactly.
I got to sip on that. LaJoya, you had
Exactly.
something?
Oh no,
LaJoya?
my question was a little bit right before. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Uh, my question from earlier was, if you have a couple that's together, whether they're married or not, and one is, like you said, kind of deceiving themselves, they're not happy, but they're acting
Mhm.
as they're happy, and the other partner is happy, but don't know that the other partner is really unhappy. Do you think they
Mm-hmm.
could ever come together if the person discover that? Could they ever come together and have some true intimacy?
I think it's possible to reconcile all of that, but it takes some real hard conversations, and a lot of times people just can't handle that.
And they don't want to do
I
the work.
mean,
They don't want
and
the
exactly,
accountability.
yes,
Yeah.
and the couple that I am referring to, this person told their partner, "I'm not happy. I don't want to be here," and the other person said, "Oh, you'll get there. We'll be fine."
Right.
I'm sorry.
You
I'm
So
see that
sorry.
them
That's funny.
saying,
yeah, yeah.
Whew.
So
That's
so they're gonna make you get there no matter what.
mhm.
no matter what.
And because of the um cultural
Mhm.
the cultural stance,
Mm-hmm.
this person can't just actually leave
Mm-hmm.
because of what it looks like in the
That sounds
culture.
like an arranged marriage. You could have did that instead.
But an arranged marriage, like
You grow to love somebody. You learn to love
Mhm.
somebody.
you hope.
Mhm. You hope. Yeah, right.
I mean, I guess you do hope,
Yeah.
but a
But
But
a
lot of
lot
yeah,
of
I
people.
times
mean,
in those things, those arranged situations where you have to be with this person because of the investments that have been changed or exchanged for you guys to be together, um that means that one person has power over everything in that relationship. There's nothing mutual. And in a healthy establishment of a relationship, hopefully you guys can have some mutual grounding around just everything that you talk about.
Mm-hmm. Right. You would.
Somebody asking about your glass, Dr. Carissa.
I
Actually,
know.
I
I
know
saw
who this
that.
somebody is, but yeah.
I'm gonna look and see who it is.
It's your buddy, your Penn State buddy.
Nope. I got some wine tonight.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Um, but yeah, I mean, it would seem that the other person has a bit of an upper hand, but this person does have um a say of how they behave within the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So that means I'm not I'm not open to creating any intimacy with you. I'm not open to trying. I'm just biding my time.
Mm-hmm. The first thing, and I know this is probably not what you was trying to say, but the first thing that just came to my mind was Color Purple, the movie. When she
Mm.
said, like I said, you probably weren't even thinking that, but when she said he does his business and then it's over. So it's no
Yeah.
mutual pleasure in
Right.
that interaction because
Right.
it's a whole business exchange. All right, he only gonna be a couple minutes, so let him go ahead and I'll just, I guess,
Do
be
we do?
available to that moment and do
Mm-hmm.
my own stuff on my own side to seek my wellness.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to be nice, and y'all didn't like when I said dry last week, but it's really hard.
You
It's
said what
But
really
last
yeah,
hard.
week?
it's
Last
very
week I said
similar.
something about your brain. If your brain is not available to intimacy, that when it comes to that moment, you're gonna be dry. It's
Okay.
true. It's facts. They should have wrote facts in the comment for that. Facts.
But
That's funny.
yeah, I mean, it's more people than you would think
Mm-hmm.
who are in those kinds of situations
Right.
where they're basically biding their time
See, they say, "Oh
and
Lord."
waiting for that thing to happen so that they can be free.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that thing
Okay.
is for them.
Right. And then even too, as you mature, like for um if you got married younger, there's certain things that you were interested in that as you grow older in your intimacy, your love of self, your love of your partner, the pleasure, all of those things grow into something different. So we talking from an intimacy standpoint, you got to make sure that that person's mind is willing to not be intimidated by what it is that you're ready to introduce.
Amen.
You want to speak about your amen?
Um, it's just like I'm married to somebody who's almost about 8 years older than me. So like we sometimes we be on different wavelengths. Not in a bad way. We just in my 20s I was like but now I'm like real settled. Everybody see I'm a grandma. I like to do stuff, but just the mindset is different.
Mm-hmm.
Cause you can be right here, or he can be over there, but I'm not there till 5 years later. So
Right.
sometimes it looks different. That's all. Like the mindset and what you consider intimacy and if that's happening or not. So it takes a lot into account.
I find it interesting, since our two men are not haven't joined us so far, in that we are defining like different ways in which intimacy shows up in the relationships. And for men, they just think of sex. They don't think about the candles, the aroma, the not wearing a bonnet. Like, they do think about it, but they don't. They don't think about it in the sense of all these things that we are just discussing so naturally and so commonplace for us, or what will be important for a 20-year-old, for 25, 30, whatever numbers that we have of wisdom. So it's like, why is there an imbalance? Like, why weren't we in the same living room learning at the same time to create what intimacy truly means for us? Like, it's a relief, it's an exercise, it's a state of trust, it's a state of compassion. Like, it's so many things, but for a man, it's just the one situation.
Well, that's the definition that
I
they
think sometimes,
have.
Right.
I think
Which is
sometimes it can be
scary.
opposite with some people.
Okay, so share.
Because I think it's depending on the different type of men out there, like different type of women. I've seen some men like say just in group conversations. It could be at work or anywhere. If we have conversations, and men are like, all I want is just to hold her.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Afterwards, I just wanted to hold her. I just wanted to
Mm-hmm.
talk, but she wasn't trying to hear none of that.
Mm.
Okay.
And he and I've heard men say I'm in love with her, but I don't even know how she feels about me.
Mm.
Besides,
Mm-hmm.
at that moment, afterwards, it's like it never happened.
It's a transaction.
Yeah. So it depends
Because at
on
the
where
bank you
the
go and you look at the bank amount and you're like, okay, wait, when did all of this get withdrawn? And then your mind just goes on all these different places and you like, all right, I guess it's over. Like the thrill was, what it was.
the
And that's
thrill is
it.
gone.
I mean,
Sorry, I thought about you talking about. I
I'm
was
sure.
over my head. The thrill is gone.
And it's funny
Don't mind me.
that Roletta jumps on at this particular time after I called her out last time. I won't call her out, even though I did see your post earlier.
But I think you're right, LaJoya. There are women who think that way as well. Definitely.
Mhm.
Definitely. I know some women who have been called the man. Like you act
Mm-hmm.
like a
Right.
dude. How you do
Mhm.
that? Yeah, I've seen that as well.
But it's like
So
to I don't
it
know.
crosses lines.
Yeah, I think with intimacy you have to really be vulnerable to some degree, and you have to soften
Yeah,
yourself when
yeah.
you don't
To
want
a
to.
large degree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to a large
And I'm
degree, you
like,
have to be able to be vulnerable.
it's just hard being vulnerable with somebody else, even if you've been with them for
Yeah,
15, 20 years. It's just hard.
it's true. It's true.
It's like a
It's
shedding, like a snake sheds its skin. You gotta shed your skin every time, and you
true.
just like,
Hmm.
I just do this 2 weeks ago. I'm not saying like the emotional piece.
Yes,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yes,
I think that's more.
that's true.
I think that's more. That's tricky versus physical.
So
Yeah,
then,
it's scary. Being
It is
vulnerable is
very
scary.
scary. Very scary.
like, what kind of tips could we give women? Because this would be like so important. What kind of tips could we give women or men to get out of their mind, which is getting out of their way, so that they can have fulfilled the best level of intimacy and or pleasure possible in their relationships and for themselves?
Hmm.
I'd say just right off the bat, be open to being vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
This might sound cheesy. I'm
It's okay.
more of a, like a to do list. I go through sticky notes all the time. I write everything down, but like even a little journal, or
Mm-hmm.
even if you write something down and burn it, whatever you do with it, I think how you're thinking or processing it, because sometimes how you say stuff or communicate might not be what you truly mean.
Mm-hmm.
Because people take it differently, but I think sometimes when it's written down and you read it out loud to yourself and then to your partner, you can kind of work through it.
Mhm.
Okay.
And I think it involves trust. And the reality is, if you're in a relationship with someone you don't trust, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm. That you could
That's a
trust
big
your
problem.
quirkiness to. You could trust your valid moments. You could
Mhm.
trust just being naturally who you are and who you show up to be versus, can I say this? Or is it
Mhm.
gonna sound right? And
Mhm.
I know for me, there's been times that I couldn't really communicate my vulnerable moments, and it is the $1 million question, April. Um, but now I'll just preface it like, okay, I need to ask you a question that's difficult for me to say. And
Hmm.
then I'll say, so it might not come out right, but I want you to receive it and help me put it back together so it's the puzzle is all over the place. And the person to whom I will be asking that now is very patient and very, like open to that type of stuff. So it's like I get what it is that I'm looking for, and I don't feel shame or anything about that. But it took a lot of years to kind of invest in myself. That vulnerability wasn't, it's still, I guess it's still scary to a degree, but it's not as scary nowhere near that it used to be probably 10, 15 years ago. And that took work. That took work.
And it takes confidence. It takes a level of self-esteem, to be confident in who you are. And not worry so much about, acceptance. This is who I am, and take it or leave it.
Right.
And that takes some time to get there.
And for you to also be like, if they really do leave, you're okay.
Yes.
Right. But sometimes when people do that, they don't be ready for the other person to leave.
Yes.
Yeah, because sometimes they check up the deuces and walk out the door. You be like, wait, I didn't mean to say that. Wait, come back.
But sometimes it's needed. And I think if you're not ready for them to leave, you haven't done all the work you needed to do. So don't say it till you're ready.
That's right.
And so sometimes people never get ready.
Yeah. Well, the way I look at it, I knew when I was ready. It was weird because, like I say, everybody asked me this question. I said I knew I was ready to get married when I was ready to leave them. Not in a bad way. It's just I don't know. It was more so like I got to get stuff done for myself. But I already did what I wanted to do. But it was like if this other person makes their choice, it is what it is. But I was like, okay,
right. And then you gotta stand in it. And it's like even if you stand in it, you gotta accept. Okay, well, if they weren't able,
you can't.
If they weren't able to like handle that question, then what else would they walk away from? Because they're telling you who they are and what they stand for already. And sometimes we look at those red flags and be like, yeah, well, I forgive them and it's going to get better. And no, they told you what the hand says, what the card game says.
They've been like, that was so cute. Oh, I just love that about the other person. Because you got rose-colored glasses on.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
But it's a necessary one should someone decide that they want to live differently and well in their self as well as in relationships.
Correct.
And what they want to really mirror for their children. Do you want to mirror not well situations? Because no matter what you tell them, they're going to go with what it is that you do.
Exhibit, yeah. But I see people, we've been together for 25 years. But he's been financially deceptive for 24
20.
Yeah, I'm just like financial infidelity, for example.
Right.
Or,
yes.
Or he hasn't been paying the bills before you even got married. I'm just,
Yeah, no, you're right. Longevity does not equal healthy.
Right. But we said earlier, people said, well, because of the time I invested in the relationship, I'm going to stay. And I think that that's all right, I'm going to say it. I think it all comes from some of the social constructs that we grow up with. And some of them can be like religion. Some of them can be our parents or other people's desire for us.
Amen.
Some of them can be just like we're fearful of like someone said a rejection or the fact that, okay, well, if this doesn't work, then what will? Or how much time do I need to give myself to be independent and dating myself before I entertain somebody new? Because, and I'm not trying to put no numbers out there, but I'm just saying because I'm 50 or I'm 55, like what does life look like? And there's no number. Like you gonna be either dead walking with somebody.
Sorry.
Or you can learn what life is like on that other side of just launching from that pad of security blanket that's not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think, but
Yes.
like the social construct you talked about, a lot of us have been taught, you got a good man if he got a job and paying the bills. Baby, a good
Mm-hmm.
man. That's I could
And
do
they
that
don't know that
myself.
he just threatened you in the car before you got out.
Right.
Right. And
Or,
he picked out your outfit before and told you could only wear this and who you could talk to
yes.
when y'all
Oh my
was out
God.
Yes.
together. Like all these
Yes.
rules. That ain't the rules we
Yes.
talking about when creating your love languages. No.
That's right. That's
But that's but
right.
that's how they
Or
look.
he
Or
doesn't talk to you when he gets mad, freezes you out, or any of the number of mental or emotional abusive behaviors that are out there. Some people think as long as he ain't busting you in your head, you okay.
But abuse happens way before you get hit. Like
Of
way
course, of
before.
course, of
Way.
course.
or when
And
he
when he
get mad
started
at you, he goes
questioning,
to his house.
wait, what happened, LaJoya?
I said, or when he gets mad at you, he just goes to the girlfriend's house.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he might come
Yeah.
back at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, but he had to go release himself.
Yeah. Or release himself
Mm-hmm.
at the casino. It
It
could
could be
be
the
different ways.
casino. It could be at the
Yeah.
sports bar
Yeah.
drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It could be
right.
that he went to the
Before sport.
basement and was playing a video game for like a million hours until
Okay.
he knew you was asleep. Yes, like it's so many things that could be that transitional object. It don't have to be another person. It
Mm-hmm.
really don't. But
True.
most
True.
people don't even consider those things.
Yes. Yes. April says starting with someone new is scary, especially when there's so much foolishness out there.
You're
Very
right.
true. Very true.
You
But
are
would you
right.
would you rather be in a relationship where you're miserable or take the chance of finding happiness?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Mm-hmm.
I won't say find happiness
Happiness.
because I hate when people say that their their partner is their happiness. I'm sorry,
No.
I don't agree with that. I think if you have to be happy within yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and your partner adds to your happiness.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That
I
means they
have
don't have
this
no hobby.
business strategist. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Nah,
I
I
had
just
this
mean
bit
I said that don't mean they ain't got no hobby.
right. And it's like I had this business strategist that I've talked to and she said that if you can't make a decision for you, like what's going to make you happy, you're not doing anything that's making you happy. So if you're trying to build a business, even if you're saying you're building this business for your kids or you're building this business for something else, if it's not solely for you, and the second
Mm,
thing is for the children, or the second thing is so your family could be stable, if it's not for you, it doesn't matter because you're still
mm,
sacrificing yourself for other people versus what's going to make you authentically happy.
Hmm. Mhm. Mhm.
that's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if
Yeah.
you're saying, oh, I'm doing it for the kids, and then you get mad at the kids when they turn 18, 21, 31, and they not keeping the legacy of what you've invested in because you did it for them, they don't want to do that. They want to go to London or somewhere else. Like they're not
But
even.
then your
I'll be at the
happiness is
corner.
shattered.
Mhm.
Whenever you bank your happiness on something else, it becomes so fragile.
Right,
So when that
right,
person
That's good.
doesn't meet your expectations or your standards, you're unhappy. That
right.
doesn't seem right to me.
So,
At all.
question: should you have expectations with intimacy?
Why not?
Yeah, I think so. You should definitely have some expectations that you share with the other
Okay.
person about what
Mm-hmm.
intimacy looks like to you and what are
Mm-hmm.
some of the things that you'd like to have, and let them tell you whether or not they can do it.
Mhm.
If they can't, then you know where
Mm-hmm.
you stand. And if they can't
Gotcha.
and are unwilling to learn or unwilling to do some of those things, then you got a problem.
Mhm.
Most deaf.
If they're even if they're intimidated by trying whatever. I mean, and when I say trying, it doesn't have to be that it's always like a sexual intimacy type thing. It could just be trying role plays and we dressing up as the butler and the maid. Some
Mhm.
people don't want to do that. Some people get real historical on you. We ain't gonna be no butler and no maid because we power to the people. Like, can you just go with me for a second? Like, we ain't going power to the people right now. But like, it could be something as simple as a role play, just making it making your interaction spicy, or doing relationship coupons. Where you have a box and you pull you like, what's the plan for tonight, and you want to be spontaneous, pull it out from the coupon box or what has been put in there. And if it's game night, if it's Netflix night, if it's look at Murder She Wrote, whatever it is, you're enjoying quality time with each other. Something that you guys have both put into that relationship box together. She said, serve me.
If that's what you need,
Listen,
let it be known.
let it be known. Be clear on it. Be
Let it be
clear.
known what's needed.
Yes, let it be known. Yeah, and it tells you a lot about your partner too. You
It
start
does.
sharing those things, it gives you a lot of information.
Information that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. You can even create a game and frame it after like Connect Four, and whoever wins, you gotta tell me 4 things you love about me, 4 things you love about my body, 4 places you would like to travel to. You could do all types of data gathering by just playing Connect Four. Or Uno, you got to set the house rules when you first start a Uno game, because no 2 people play that alike. But you can use these things and you can see how people do decision making and conflict resolution as adults, just from something very, very social, and however it is that you set it up. And it's like, listen, we jumping into this. We gotta do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really doesn't. Just going back to what LaJoya said, it really involves being able to be vulnerable and trusting that you're able to share this stuff with this person, and nothing bad is going to come out of it. Because a lot of times people don't share because they fear something bad is going to happen.
And if it does, you just gotta go with it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For
And
sure.
April said Derek Jackson's game. I know he has like 3 or 4 games now. They seem very, very interesting. I know I got to get my games out there. My taboo game. Um, I usually use with my sex esteem event that I host, but I gotta get that game out there so that couples and individuals can grow in
Okay.
different ways. Yes. Um, I guess what else, ladies, before we try to wind down? Right. The Stimulate Me is his very first game, I believe, because he has like 3 other games.
Hmm. Not
Yeah.
familiar.
You're not familiar? I mean, just as a side disclaimer, he's not even a therapist or
Hmm.
a relationship person.
Oh,
He's just somebody who is making a whole bunch of money off of our industry from observation and experiences. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
and he's attractive, so
Interesting.
women follow him, and he just recently did a
yeah,
video in
I
this
do.
living room, and it looks like people buying his games is doing him well.
Really
Mhm.
interesting. Okay.
Mhm. His
Okay.
lust language game is similar to the Connect Four idea. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Verletta. See, this is why I be talking about the things that you do in your life. I'm just gonna say in your life. You done tested all the games out.
Mm-mm-mm.
So
Yeah.
we
Okay.
have covered intimacy and anxiety and communication for a couple weeks. I hope that everybody who has participated in these conversations, be it that they catch us on the replay or they catch us live, we really appreciate your engagement. And LaJoya, thank you for joining us
Yes.
this week. I did find out one of the people
No
who I
problem.
invited as the male point of view voice is on the plane going out of the country, like very, very
Oh
far.
wow.
And they forgot
Okay.
that they were
Oh, okay.
traveling to Liberia.
Okay.
So I don't know how you forget that, but see that's that difference between a man and a female. Definitely, Berletta, it's either down somewhere in our feed that you can catch it, or you can join the community on YouTube of Butterfly Love LLC. You can subscribe, and all the videos are usually there after for the replay as well. So then I would ask the people who are listening if you could throw us a couple topics in the chat. And LaJoya, if you have any that you think, as far as in building relationships, all types of relationships, could be work relationship to others, parent, child. What would be some suggestions that you would throw our way?
I don't know. Let's see. I've always had to work on communication with people I work with. That's an everyday thing because people communicate differently.
I remember our first communication, love.
You do?
Oh, I do. It's not for this video.
Was it bad?
It wasn't bad. It's not for this video though. And it wasn't. Let me be clear, because I don't want to have nobody lingering. It wasn't bad. It just, we come from two different narratives, and we, our age group is not the same, but we work extremely phenomenally well together. Once we understood how each person communicated, so that was a lesson in and of itself. But my first introduction, I was like, listen.
Excuse me, lady.
Okay.
Okay, but I think
with the cat.
Right, I was going to say that, but I would say I think my 25 is different from 35. I will say that.
Definitely. So one of the topics, Berletta, I see how to move from the realm of situationships to an actual relationship.
Relationship.
Yeah.
Okay.
I started to bring up entanglements to ask you your opinion, LaJoya. Like, what is your view on this new word, entanglement?
Seriously?
The new word of what?
Of entanglement. With situationships and entanglement, they like kissing cousins.
They are. So I have a word as well that I've been using since I was like about 20, 21. You want to know?
Sure.
It's called a hangout ship.
A hangout ship.
Yes, and I use it in extra conversation. I've been using it this long since college. I would define it as it could be an entanglement. It doesn't have to be. It could be a friend date, but it's more like like we hang out. There's no label, but we know what it is. So if I want to go out to eat, go on vacation, you're the first person that I call because I really like you, really want to hang out with you. But it's more than friends. But I think it's the type of shit, but it's not a full blown relationship.
So is it friends with benefits as a hangout ship? That's her word she made up, Carissa.
So it could be, but doesn't have to. Like the benefit of like being with someone, growing with someone, in that terms, but it doesn't have to be physical. But it's just more so you're trying to figure out who you are. So you're basically upfront, you're hanging out, but you're exclusive. But it's more like I'll hang out with you first before I hang out with anybody else if it's on that level. So it's a little weird and different, but it's a form. I feel like it's a form of dating, but you know how you date, but you want to get to know
before. I would think that's before a situationship, because you're not saying that it actually has to have like the sexual intimacy in it when situationships is a situation and they never end mutually.
But the situationships can also be forever complicated.
Forever.
So I know a lot of people that are in. I know a lot of people that are in relationships, but it's still complicated after 5 years. Because one person is just waiting for the situation to change.
And that hurts,
It
because
does.
that
It's
person
very
that's
hurtful.
waiting on it to
It's
change and it
it's
doesn't
traumatic,
change to grow into what they wanted
and
it to grow into.
mhm,
Yeah, that's a
it's very
challenge.
traumatic as well.
Okay, so when we do the hangout ship, you gotta come back and be a guest on that conversation as
Yeah,
well.
we should talk about that.
Verletta, what conversation you want to
Let me
come in
see.
on?
Hangout ship. Is that what she was talking about? The hangout
No,
ship?
that's April. She said she liked that top. Well, yeah, hangout ship is what LaJoya was talking about. I think it's stages to it: hangout ship, situationship, and then entanglement.
Entanglement.
I think entanglement and
I bet that
situationships
was
are
the
kissing cousins.
I bet that was the most looked up word after that round red table talk.
I hope it don't come up as a licensure question, like only in urban psychology.
Right. Seriously.
Only in urban psychology. So, LaJoy, you got anything else for us other than hangout ship? Any closing
You
thoughts
said,
that
do
you
I have any
have?
other topics?
Yeah.
No, but I think what I wanted to
Isn't
say
that like a real
earlier.
person, Mary Lee Harper? Is she in our
Yeah.
group? She's in our
Yeah.
group, right? Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead, LaJoya. You frozen, so we
I don't
can't
think I
hear
can
you.
hear.
LaJoya, you with us still?
Well, I think I like that topic. That's something
Mm-hmm.
we should probably talk about again. This
Mm-hmm.
the hangout ship, situationship, entanglement triad.
Right.
That's a good one.
Definitely. Definitely.
But
And how people feel like they fall
but with
into it. Like they fall into these
okay.
situations over and over again. Like, they could be hanging out on a hangout ship with somebody who they're not really interested in, but they enjoy their company. And then that
Mhm.
person says, well, we always hanging out. Why can't we be together? And you'd be like, oh, did they ask me that question? That's almost like a TikTok. Like, did they ask me that question? They didn't ask me that question.
Yeah, I think we should. We
Also with
should.
the oh,
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
you say
LaJoya,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Uh-huh.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Oh, I couldn't hear you. Okay, so sometimes I was just about to say when you asked about the entanglement earlier, sometimes the entanglement they get switched up in it because it's not so much the physical part, it's the other stuff that comes with it that they may use
Mhm.
during the entanglement,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mhm.
that shows them a new light, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I never knew this stuff
Mhm.
existed."
Right.
Mhm.
So that could get people
Yes.
caught up too in the entanglement, which they ain't even
Yeah.
think about or think it was coming, and then boom.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
And
When someone
there's
shows
people
you
out there
something
that
you've never
specialize
seen.
in it's people that specialize in equipment and all the other stuff to make happen during entanglements.
Mhm. Yes.
See, now I want to ask, what is the equipment?
Meaning, sometimes in entanglements, people are exposed to like just material they use during those times, pleasurable times.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Thanks for letter for coming through. We'll see you on the
Yes.
flip
Thank
side.
you.
Um, yeah, so whew, I don't know.
It's a lot that goes
Um,
into that.
huh? How many parts does that
I said it's
conversation
just a lot.
go into? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we should dive a little further into these ships.
Yes,
I
we
think people
definitely
be
should.
very interested.
So it's
Definitely,
an
definitely.
situationship slash entanglement slash hangout ship
Hangout
slash.
ship.
Okay.
Hangout
Yes,
shit.
Yes. Yes.
yes.
Because a lot of people
Friendship.
are the right, but a lot of people are in those and they don't know it. It's like you
Yeah.
being
Very
like you
true.
were saying gaslighting from earlier. It's like you've been gaslighted and don't even know.
Very
Mm-hmm.
true.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very
Yes,
true.
I agree with that, and I can't wait to talk about that. So many people are in what they
Yep.
think are friendships, but they're being groomed.
Right, right, right. Being groomed for all of that type of stuff, especially the stuff that Verletta just put up there.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes consent. But then you end up in a dungeon room and you like, well, how I get in this dungeon?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes,
Listen.
yes.
You gotta have your mind open if you're gonna dip and dab into the dungeon life.
Oh man.
She said, all right, I'm out. See, you about to
All
get drawn back
right.
in.
Bye, Valletta. Good night.
um, all right, so we'll take that in consideration and probably, start on the ships next week. I
Mm-hmm.
guess for as far as the live broadcast, we thank you all for
Yeah.
coming out and sipping and chatting with us. Y'all didn't share what was in your cup, but that's okay.
Mm.
We got Carissa to have a real glass instead of tea.
Yes,
Instead of
yes.
tea. And
Yeah.
Carissa, did you want to have any last words before we sign off?
No, actually, I enjoyed this conversation, and I think that it's much needed for clarity, you know, trying to help people figure out where intimacy falls in their lives and what it is, get thinking about what it is that they really need in their relationships. I think that that's a good start.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely. And hopefully we can get some testosterone on the line as we talk
Yeah.
about these different ships going through.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
All righty.
All right,
So
guys.
catch us next Friday at 8 p.m. right here in the group, as well as on YouTube and the Butterfly Love LLC channel.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.